Joining me now, Texas Congressman Michael Cloud. Congressman, your reaction to what you witnessed yesterday and the belief that this trilateral meeting will eventually happen.
Well, what a remarkable day for sure to see what we saw happening at the White House. And, we hear a lot of presidents and a lot of leaders talk about peace through strength, but we're finally seeing it with President Trump and what he's able to do to bring people to the table, people who really don't want to talk to each other. And a lot of times in situations like this, it's almost a dog and pony show, but he brought these leaders together and he's expecting them to get to work. And if anyone can bring a resolution to this, it's going to be President Trump. And it's good to see the progress that's happening. It's going better than a lot of people expected. There's still, some big things to discuss and get through the way. But we're optimistic that we'll be able to bring peace. And President Trump keeps them focused on really what the big deal is, and that's saving lives.
If the administration was to come back to you and say, look, we do want to push more financially, assist the Ukrainians financially, if it comes to that eventually, would you be willing to do that? Would you be willing to financially help the Ukrainians, maybe donating weapons, for instance, to help the Ukrainians as this peace process plays out?
At this point, I'm not going to count anything out in the middle of a negotiation like this, but I will say America has certainly done its part in here already, and it's really time for Europe to stand up and to do their job in their region. And I think that's what we're seeing President Trump do when he brings the world leaders together, the European leaders to the White House, and it's time for them to do their part in protecting their region.
And they are 5% of their GDP in defense spending. Those commitments have been made. And finally, the Europeans are actually ponying up, if you will, for their own defense and taking that pressure off the American taxpayer. A lot of news coming out of Texas. I want to get to this with you. The House Republican Conference is demanding the inclusion of community project funding to avoid a potential government shutdown next month. But the return of earmarks to the annual appropriations bill is sparking a party battle within the Republican Party. Some are viewing earmarks as a return to the days of pork barrel spending. Congressman, you are a member of the House Appropriations Committee. Do you think that this threatens the passage of funding bills before the September 30th deadline? We had one of your colleagues, Congressman Davidson, on in the 6 o'clock hour, and he said, I can't believe we're already talking again about a lighthouse in Maine. A lot of criticism was lobbed during the argument over the big, beautiful bill against Susan Collins for the amount of money, the millions that she secured for her state to get the bill passed. Are we going back in that direction? Because that is a political risk as we go forward towards the midterms next year for the Republicans.
Yeah, if it was up to me, I was fine with us not having earmarks. We also have seen, however, in the past where, for example, the Biden administration was doing everything they could to make sure that congressionally authorized projects did not get done, if they would have a benefit to domestic energy production, for example. So, in an ideal world, Congress would direct every single dollar, but we know that's not the case. And what we have right now is a mess. The big thing right now is the fact that once again, Congress is headed toward the September 30th deadline. And it seems like every time we get to September 30th, Congress seems shocked and surprised we're there. And so we're going to have to figure out how to get legislation passed, how to get this government funded. And, there's a few options on the table to do that, and we'll have to make sure we'll get that done.
We're going to be watching that. We have been, as I mentioned just a moment ago, watching the state of Texas. Texas State House Democrats finally returned to Austin yesterday after 2 weeks of running away from the redistricting vote. Tell us what's going on and how everything played out yesterday from your vantage point in the state legislature.
Well, the big deal is they finally showed up for work, and so we expect to see that continue to move forward at this point. Texas very likely can pick up 5 seats here to help out in the House. And of course, that's going to affect all of us in our congressional representation. And I love the people I've been able to represent. But we also see and understand the big picture at play here, where Dems have done this for decades even. And we see so many states that have been chopped up and not well represented. And so finally we have some leadership that's going to fight fire with fire here make sure that we're able to continue to move this country in the right direction.
Well, that phrase you just used is something that the Democratic governors have been using almost in tandem, whether it's Kathy Hochul of New York or Gavin Newsom of California. They're saying, we're going to fight fire with fire. The truth is that the Democratic states have been doing this, well before this whole Texas fight. Yeah, well, before the Texas fight started. At the same time, do you worry that Pandora's box has been opened again? Because now you're going to have, again, Newsom and Hochul and Pritzker that are going to try and make the same moves.
Well, ideally we would do this once every 10 years. It would be a right and a fair process, and everybody would be above board in that. That's not what we've seen happen. And if you look at the map, the leftist states have been doing this for a long time. And so there's not as much to gain there as there are in red states. And certainly if this turns into a redistricting war, I have high confidence that Republicans are going to do pretty well in it. And so I would caution them for their own sake. They probably don't want to start a fight they can't finish.
Congressman Michael Cloud, it's always great to see you. Great state of Texas. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you. God bless.